guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm really excited to be launching season 1 for my YouTube channel, and for episode 1 we're going to be doing a Christmas dinner menu. When we're thinking about Christmas dinner, I find that we often feel like it's so overwhelming, and then you add vegan into that and it's like, what what do I even do? So I'm bringing you a Christmas dinner menu that you can rely on. We've got a great protein recipe that you can use as a substitute for traditional turkey, and then we're pulling in some of those traditional recipes and we're veganizing them. So you can really show off just how delicious a Christmas dinner menu can be when it's vegan. So let's get started. So for the first recipe, we're gonna be starting with the nut roast. This is a great meat-free alternative. It's vegan and gluten-free. And honestly, whenever I make this nut roast for my non-vegan friends, they say that they don't miss the meat. So this is really gonna be the main dish of your Christmas dinner menu that's really gonna wow your audience. Okay, so we're gonna start by making our chia egg. So we have some ground chia here. Another option you can use are flax seeds, making it ground flax. But I really like chia. We're gonna be adding a cup of water to the ground chia, and you're gonna see that the texture here becomes a lot like an egg. So we're just gonna mix this together, and this is really gonna thicken over time, which is why I like to do it in the beginning, because then I can just let it thicken on its own while I'm getting the rest of the ingredients together. As you can see, it's already really thickening, but as we leave it, it'll get even more thick. So I'll put that to the side. Next is to take our nuts. So as you know, I've got my nut medley here. I'm gonna add this to my food processor. I'm gonna try and not drop them everywhere. And we're just gonna pulse this for about 1 minute. The texture is similar to sort of like a nut flour or a nut meal. It's really nice and pulverized, but now we're gonna work on the mushroom medley. So we're gonna be starting with some olive oil. We're gonna be adding 2 tablespoons. We're gonna start with the onion. My little tip to getting this skin off of the garlic is to smash it with your hand, and then it actually peels away so much easier, just like that, and open it up, and it just kind of flakes away. It's so nice. I really like to use a garlic press. I'm not really big into single-use products, but a garlic press is one of those single-use products that I absolutely love because it just makes your life so much easier. Look at how quickly we just chopped this garlic. And we're just going to be cooking this until softened. This part usually takes around 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so now we're gonna be adding the mushrooms. It adds a really nice meaty texture, which is what we're looking for with sort of that main dish. Remember that this is gonna be replacing the turkey, so we really wanna kind of bring that oomph, that meaty texture, and I find the mushrooms does such a good job at kind of offsetting the nuts so that it's not too nutty, and it's just a really nice loaf. Another thing I've done here is I've kind of spread out my mushrooms. I don't want to overcrowd them. When you overcrowd mushrooms, they get kind of soggy and gray, which no one likes. Everyone likes those really beautifully brown mushrooms, and you're going to achieve that by not overcrowding them. This way all the water content can release, and we get a really nice, beautiful brown mushroom. So now that these mushrooms are browned, I'm gonna start adding in the flavor. So we've got some nutritional yeast here. This is so nice for adding that umami flavor, as well as tamari. It just adds a beautiful richness to this dish. And then finally, we're gonna be adding in those herbs. We're gonna be adding a little bit of salt as well. And we're gonna give this 5 to 10 minutes to cook. So now that I have my mushroom medley, I'm gonna be adding this to the food processor. Now we are going to pulse this together to combine. I'm gonna do a little bit more. There's a couple pieces of onion in there that I want to pulverize. As you guys can see, this is a really nice, beautiful, meaty texture now. And so I'm gonna be adding this back to the skillet. There's a little bit on the blade. I wanna get every last little bit. I don't wanna be throwing any of it away. So next we're gonna be adding that chia egg that I made from the beginning. This is gonna be a great binder for the recipe, as well as some of this brown rice. So you can see now that this really does look like a meatloaf texture, which is exactly what we're looking for. However, we're still gonna bake this. So once we bake it, it's really gonna come together and be a beautiful loaf that you can slice into. Oh, I almost forgot the tahini. So I'm just gonna add this in and I'm gonna mix it into my mixture and then I'm gonna get it in my loaf pan. I've got a 9-inch loaf pan here, just a standard one. What I like to do is get a little bit of parchment paper and I'm gonna situate it inside of my loaf pan. I like to do this because then I can just lift it out when it's ready and it's not gonna get stuck in the pan, but it requires a little bit of arts and crafts. So you wanna get it to kind of fit into the bottom of your pan. So I'm just gonna be cutting it to size. And you can see I've got overhang on either side. And now we're gonna pour in our mixture. We're gonna spread this out. And now we're ready to bake this. One thing I really like to do is add a pretty topping on top because it can look a little bland without. My favorite is to bring back those mushrooms and just add a simple brown mushroom to go on top. It's so tasty and it just really helps to elevate the dish and make it look so pretty. And we're gonna spread them out like we did last time, and we're just gonna brown these. So this nut roast has been cooling for about 10 minutes. I'm gonna use a little spatula to kind of loosen any of the bits that might be joined. And then I'm gonna use these 2 bits of parchment paper that I had pre-lined it with to lift it out and put it on my serving tray. To elevate the dish, we have added some roasted mushrooms on top, and it just makes a really beautiful presentation. It also kind of indicates what's gonna be in the nut roast for any of your guests. Now they know that there's gonna be mushrooms inside. We're gonna be moving on to my vegan gravy. This vegan gravy is so delicious on things like stuffing and mashed potatoes. It is absolutely gorgeous on that nut roast that we made. And you can't really have Christmas dinner without gravy, right? I'm gonna start by adding my miso and I wanna thin it out a bit. And we're gonna add a splash of broth to help thin it out. Okay, now that the miso is a little bit dispersed, we can add in the rest of our broth. Then we're gonna add nutritional yeast, onion powder, and arrowroot powder and whisk it all together, and then add in the vegan butter and continue to whisk until it thickens. My gravy is finished. It has thickened really nicely. It's also gonna thicken a little more as it cools. It's still pretty hot, but I wanna transfer some over to my gravy, what is it called? Gravy boat? I'm just gonna transfer this over to my gravy boat so that we can pour it over our nut roast. Now we're gonna be moving on to my maple roasted Brussels sprouts. It really elevates Brussels sprouts, I think, because there's so much going on when we're thinking about Christmas dinner that sometimes we take the vegetables and we kind of leave them last minute and end up just steaming or boiling, and then nobody thinks that they actually like vegetables. But this recipe is definitely going to prove that theory wrong. So I'm gonna start by chopping the Brussels sprouts. I'm gonna be halving these. I'm getting rid of this little end here because it is looking like a little bit like womp womp, and I don't really want to be eating that. So I am cutting off this end, but I want to make sure that I'm still leaving the end intact because it's sort of holding all the leaves together. So we're just going to be cutting them in halves like this, and I'm just going to do that until I've done this whole bowl. Now that my Brussels sprouts are chopped, I'm just going to throw them on top of my baking tray. I've lined this with some parchment paper, and then I'm going to drizzle it with some coconut oil, and then we're gonna sprinkle with some salt. So I'm quickly just going to toss this with my fingers. I wanna make sure that everything is nicely coated in the oil. Oh my gosh, it already smells so good. I just love the smell of coconut oil. Now, I'm gonna be laying these down, cut side down, just so that I'm getting the most out of my roasting. They look so cute and cozy in here. After about 10-15 minutes, then I'm gonna kind of shake things up in the oven. Now that the Brussels sprouts are in the oven, we're gonna be working on that spicy maple dressing that's gonna go on top. So I'm gonna start with the maple syrup, and now the coconut oil, and we're gonna finish with some chili flakes and ginger. Now we're gonna whisk this to combine. The dressing is done. We are going to roast these hazelnuts. These are gonna be sprinkled on top of the roasted Brussels sprouts, and it just adds such a nice, gorgeous crunch. One thing I wanna make sure I'm doing when I'm toasting the nuts is that I'm stirring frequently because they tend to burn when you leave them alone in the pan. The whole toasting process is gonna take about 3 to 5 minutes, and I just wanna keep a watchful eye on these. So these Brussels sprouts are ready. We're gonna get them in our serving bowl. Then we're gonna finish with the spicy maple and the toasted nuts. And finally, we're gonna use a little bit of lime zest to top. The next recipe that I'm gonna be making is a simple vegan stuffing. It's a really reliable stuffing that's full of flavor. It's just so Christmassy and delicious. So I'm gonna start by chopping the onion. I'm going to chop vertically, little kind of slits, and now I'm gonna chop horizontally. And what happens is that we get these really nice little small bits of onion, and it didn't really require a lot of work. So next I'm gonna chop up the baguette. I use day-old baguette. Day-old bread is so perfect for making stuffing, so if you have any left over, you can actually chop it up into these little bits, put it in a baggie, and then you can even freeze it if you want and pull it out when you need it. So I'm just gonna chop this in half so it's a little bit easier to manage. What I like to do is I like to open it up and then really just keep making tiny little sticks, sort of. And then from there, I'll chop those into finer bits, like so. For the base of this stuffing, we're gonna be adding some onion and garlic. Next, we're gonna add in some celery, some fresh herbs. Okay, and then we're gonna add in some salt and pepper. Okay, so I've got 2 cups of veg broth here. I'm gonna be adding that now. Okay, so I'm gonna take this off the heat now, and I'm gonna add in my baguette. And now I'm just going to gently mix this so that it absorbs that liquid. I'm gonna transfer this now to my casserole dish, and we're gonna bake it in the oven. Oh wow, this looks so good. We're gonna add some tin foil on top while it bakes in the oven. And this is just sort of to protect it so that it kind of cooks together, but it doesn't burn. So let's get this in the oven. Okay, so we're gonna get this out of the oven now. I took the tin foil off after 40 minutes so that the top could get really nice and golden. For the next recipe, we're gonna be making a real classic. We're gonna be doing my mashed potatoes, veganized of course. We're using some vegan substitutes. For cream, we're gonna be substituting with some coconut cream. Then we're also gonna be using some melted vegan butter. It's really gonna pull in that butteriness and that creaminess that we love in mashed potatoes. And then we're also gonna be adding some fresh and seasonal herbs. We've got some rosemary and thyme, just very nice and Christmassy. We're gonna be frying these up at the end and sprinkling on top, and I just really love it for kind of elevating those mashed potatoes. So let's get started. We're gonna start by roasting an entire garlic head. This is probably my favorite part of this recipe, is that it's just so garlicky and delicious. Because we're roasting it, it really kind of makes those flavors a lot more mild and caramelized. So we can throw in an entire bulb of garlic into this recipe and it's not going to be overpowering. Now we're just going to be chopping up the potatoes into small chunks. I really am just chopping these into chunks so that when I'm boiling them on the stovetop, they're gonna cook a lot faster. So it doesn't need to be anything specific. We just wanna get these into rough chunks. I'm gonna be frying up the herbs that are gonna go on top. I've got some thyme and rosemary here, and I just really love the taste of it when it's fried. So I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil, and then I'm gonna throw in my herbs. The potatoes are boiled, so let's add in that melted vegan butter, coconut milk, salt and pepper, and get mashing. Those look nice and fluffy. Now we're gonna add that delicious roasted garlic to the mashed potatoes to finish. Give them a squeeze at the base and they ooze out. These mashed potatoes are ready. We are going to plate these now and finish by sprinkling with our herbs. So the last thing that I'm going to be serving with our menu is a holiday salad. I really just like offering a salad on the table because there's a lot of really hearty dishes. So this really helps to kind of lighten and brighten the entire table. The thing I really love about it is that we're pulling in those holiday flavors. The dressing is an orange dressing. I love orange around Christmas time. We're also gonna be adding some orange to the salad. I find they're just so pretty and jewel toned. And then we're also gonna be using some pomegranate. It adds a really nice crunch to the salad. Finally, we're gonna be adding some toasted almonds, another great crunch to the recipe. All around, this is the perfect holiday salad. So we're gonna start by getting the dressing ready for this holiday salad. This is great to prepare in advance if you want. I'm gonna be using some green onion because it's nice and subtle and it really kind of elevates that dressing. We're gonna chop this up really fine. Even green onions make me cry. This is crazy. Okay, now we're gonna add the orange juice, apple cider vinegar, olive oil, maple syrup, some red wine vinegar. I'm still crying, sorry. Okay. Those green onions. Mustard, and some salt, and finally a little bit of pepper. So now all that we have left to do is to build this salad. We're gonna start with our greens, the clementine, sliced avocado, and then some pomegranate seeds, and sprinkle with the toasted almonds. We're almost done making our Christmas dinner menu, but to finish we have to have dessert, obviously, and I'm gonna be sharing today one of my favorite dessert recipes I have ever made on the vlog. It is for my vegan pecan pie. We're gonna start by making our chia egg by mixing water and ground chia. I always like to do this first because it takes a little while to thicken. Okay, so next we're gonna get started on the crust. For this recipe, I've opted in for store-bought. I actually do have a crust recipe in my cookbook if you wanna make a homemade version, but if you wanna keep things really simple, then I recommend just grabbing it from the grocery store and then you have it. My little tip to A, make it look homemade, and B, to get the perfect ratio of crust to filling is to get your own 9-inch tart pan, and then we're gonna add the crust to the tart pan. I'm gonna use one for my base and the other one to build the wall. So I'm just gonna smoothen out this bottom so that it fits nice and snug. I'm just gonna stick it to the sides and sort of attach it as I go. And no one ever even asks. Like, you can kind of just pretend you made it. One thing that I will say is when you're buying a pre-made crust like this, you're gonna wanna make sure that it's vegan because not all of them are. So just check the back of the ingredients. So now we have our tart crust. I'm gonna put this in the fridge to chill while I work on the filling. Like this. I can't get it. Oh my god. Ah, okay, we did it. Now that we've got the crust in the fridge, we are going to add all the filling ingredients to this bowl, except the pecans. Those are gonna go in at the end. Brown rice syrup is pretty thick, and if we were using something like a corn syrup, it's a lot thinner, but we're gonna be using some maple syrup to kind of thin this out, and then it'll be the perfect consistency for our filling. I feel like I'm making an art project. This is actually so fun. Okay, here we go. And now we're gonna add some maple syrup. We're gonna add some vegan butter, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, some brown sugar, some cinnamon, and some salt. We're also gonna finish with some arrowroot powder, and this is gonna help thicken everything. Oops, I forgot to add my chia egg, which we made at the very beginning, so let's throw that in too. Okay, I forgot one more thing, the fancy molasses. I don't know where my brain is, but I think I forgot it over with the stuffing. So let's add 1 tablespoon of fancy molasses, and this is just for that nice treacle flavor. We're gonna whip it all to combine. We've got a really nice liquidy texture. This is what we're looking for, and now we can add in the pecans. And we're gonna stir this to combine. Oh my God, this smells so good. I don't even wanna bake it, I just wanna eat it from the bowl. So I'm just gonna grab my pan from the fridge, and then we're gonna add the filling to it, and it's gonna go in the oven. I always line a pan with parchment paper, and then I'll put my tart pan over top of it because sometimes there can be some overspill. So this can go in the oven now. This pie has fully cooled now, so we can slice into it. As you can see, it just looks so golden and caramelized and delicious. One of my favorite ways to serve this is either with ice cream, or my personal favorite is coconut whipped cream. So here we have our final Christmas dinner menu. How good does this look? This is definitely a show-stopping vegan Christmas dinner menu that you guys can rely on. If you are vegan and didn't really know how to bring together a Christmas dinner menu, or maybe you're thinking about entertaining but certain people in your family are vegan, now you know exactly what to make. When you're thinking of Christmas dinner, it might still be a little bit overwhelming for you, but I just want to let you know that certain things can be made in advance. The nut roast, you can make this a day in advance, as well as the mashed potatoes. Just make sure that you're sprinkling with those fried herbs right before serving. You can also make the stuffing in advance. All of these things can go in the fridge, and then you can reheat them either in the microwave or in the oven. Just cover each in tin foil at around 300 for 20 minutes, and it'll just bring it right back to life. Another thing that can be made the day before or 2 days before is the vegan gravy. Just pop it in a container, put it in the fridge, reheat in the microwave, and you can always add splashes more water or broth if it's kind of thickened up a little too much for your liking. The roasted Brussels sprouts, now I would say you're gonna wanna make this before serving because we want it to be warm, and we want that really nice crispiness of it coming freshly out of the oven, as well as the salad, of course, that's gonna wilt. So make sure that you're making that just before serving. And for the pecan pie, you can actually make this well in advance and freeze it if you want. I always like to do it a day or 2 in advance, wrap it up in a container, throw it in the freezer, and then just bring it out to thaw on Christmas Day. So I hope you guys really enjoy this vegan Christmas dinner. And if you do, let me know what you think in the comments below. Give it a like, and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel for more delicious vegan recipes. I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.